Welcome, everyone. This is Holistic Health Practitioners, the Cincinnati and the Dayton area. Well, we have people coming from all over, but that's our main area of town. We are having a Q&A with health insurance because we understand the importance of the savings. A lot of people don't even want to use their health insurance because of the cost that of one, just trying to get it, the premiums themselves, and then you're not going to seem to be getting a whole lot for what you're forking out. And a lot of other things. Can I use this with other practitioners outside of the traditional Western medicine? We're going to answer all those questions. If you have specific questions now that you definitely want to get addressed right out the gate, just hold on, give us about 5-10 minutes. And believe me, between Mike and Wes, they will jump right into this. So the biggest question is, let's just jump into, and Wes, if you want to start, that's fine. Why don't we just go into what is this insurance? Just the basics. I think if you guys have not watched the video, hopefully you did. It does give a good, decent summary of what this is. But Wes, if you could go through those pieces and kind of get into a lot of the same questions that many of us have coming in here and saying, wait a minute, how can you get our premiums this low? How is this that we have no deductible? Or, all those types of things. So let's just jump in from there.
Sure, no problem. Well, just first of all, I want to say to everyone, I will try to answer answer any of your questions to the best of my knowledge. If for some reason there is something that I don't know, I can get your information and I can get back to you with those answers. So with that being said, first of all, we have to look at it as insurance. What is insurance? Insurance is something that you utilize to help you cover a illness, in this case, an illness or injury, so that you don't have to either choose between that and food, as well as being able to keep yourself from, let's be honest, going bankrupt in major issues. So with that being said, the insurance that we have is not major medical like you would have on the market. It doesn't come from Blue Cross Blue Shield. It is not what they call the major medical or Affordable Care Act. So those situations, we don't qualify as those because of a couple pieces of our insurance of what we don't cover. There's a couple things.
Call from Quill.
Oh, I got to.
That was Shelton. I muted him. Go ahead.
All right. There's first of all, we don't have we don't cover pregnancy in a traditional way, and we don't cover your prescriptions in a traditional way of what major medical would cover. And we do have a limit on how much we will cover. So those are the ones that kick us out of being major medical. Now let's talk about what we do. We do cover hospitalization. We do cover doctor's offices. We do cover labs, treatments, those type of things. So with the product that we have, we start out with a medical product that pays very close, just like Medicare would. If anyone is familiar with Medicare, Medicare is not insurance. Medicare is a government run. Actually, it's a government run or individual funded government run health type plan. It is a fee for service. Medicare is big enough to set those fees and tell the providers exactly how much they're going to pay, and that's it. That just happens to be because they're big enough. But they only pay a set amount. They don't negotiate. They don't have excuse me, unlimited amounts that they will pay. If you go in there for, say, a broken arm, they have a set amount that they pay. Ours is very much like that as well. We don't cover illnesses, we cover treatment. So if you have cancer, we cover the treatment for cancer. We don't cover cancer itself. And I think most people get that misunderstanding. That's what insurance does. Insurance covers treatments. Would you agree, Mike?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
this is important. This is very important to distinguish because, and go ahead, Wes, just pay attention to this.
all right. So what we do is we pay a set amount. But unlike Medicare, we pay it very close. We very similar to like Medicare does. We have a network that we work with. Let's like in that we, if you utilize, you get a best benefits, you lower cost. But let's say, for example, let's start out with a doctor's visit. You go to a standard, as Rodney said, a Western medicine, a doctor's office. You go in there. If the doctor's visit is $140, and the plan that you have only covers 120, then the cost for you out of pocket would be $20. But let's look on the flip side. Let's say you go to the doctor's, and for example, a chiropractor, and you can get most chiropractors are not in network. They don't accept insurance. So you go there and it costs you $65. Well, $65, your plan is still paying 120. So they would pay the $65 to the doctor and then end up sending you a check for, I believe, comes out to be $55. Am I correct?
Yeah.
$55. People say, well, how can that be? Because the premium that you're paying, excuse me, sorry, I have puppies. Because of the premium you're paying for these set benefits. They are going to pay no matter, they're not going to pay more and they're not going to pay less. So like I said, if you can get it cheaper than what the insurance pays, that extra money goes directly to you. And that goes for all of our product, all of our coverages that we have. We also, well, let me ask, does anybody have any questions at this point? Just a moment. Let me,
Yeah. Well, Mike can answer. Susan, Christine, do you have any questions? Shelton? If
Sorry
you do,
about
just
that.
unmute yourself or feel free to throw something into the chat room.
yeah,
or the
sorry
chat
about
bar.
that interruption. I just didn't want them to be barking. But yes, what we end up doing is we cover treatment. So if you have to, you go in and get a broken arm, this product also has a built-in accidental plan as well. So these plans, this plan has multiple policies that will end up paying not in lieu of each other, but in addition to each other. So if you go into the with a broken arm and because you fell off your house and off the ladder and broke your arm, not only is the medical portion going to pay as it was limited, but the accidental plan will also pay up to $4,000 on any accidental benefits that you would suffer, whether it's a car accident, falling off a house, what have you. It's going to end up covering in that manner in paying you directly. So in this case, you're going to have two policies paying for the same injury. So now with that being said, how does this work? Why does our costs probably are about half of what you would pay it with the Affordable Care Act. Why is that? The biggest issue with that is we run our stuff through Underwriting. We don't have it set up to where we cover everybody, because when you do that, you don't bring your costs down, you bring the lower people's costs up. So in that case, that's what we run through everything through Underwriting. We can cover about 80% of the people that are out here in the country.
Now, let me ask you a question, because a lot of people won't believe that because of the chronic issues that they're dealing with on a day in, day out basis, some of the medications that they're on, all the other scary things that they run up against, or, hey, your premium is going to be like astronomical because of this. Can you get into that piece a little bit more? I'm assuming some others may want to know that.
Sure. What we end up doing is by running it through Underwriting, we have a what they call very liberal underwriting. A 6'2" person can be 300 pounds, for example. Most insurances, when they used to go through Underwriting, would not have that as an option. We also have it if you have high blood pressure. If you have that's not a problem. Thyroid issues, not a problem. Diabetes, not a problem unless you're injectable. Now, the reason is it's not because we don't want to cover you, but because when you're getting injectable diabetes
Insulin.
treatment, like your insulin, you're generally going to be going to a doctor more often. You're going to be having higher priced pharmaceuticals, and therefore you're not going to get the best benefit out of our product. So if you have diabetes and high blood pressure together, you still are going to be covered by us. We have no problems with that. There are a few things if you've had cancer in the last 5 years. Just about any product that does what we do is not going to be able to run you through underwriting. If it's more than 5 years, depending on what it, and then I have to throw in there, depending on what it is, we do have there is a couple things that we cannot help with. But in general, if it's more than 5 years, we're not looking at an issue with even cancer, as long as it's already been treated and you are considered in remission. Now I see is there an exclusion list available? Yes, there is. We do have one. There are some things that runs in our underwriting guide that Mike can probably get so we can provide you.
Yeah, I'll just put that in. I'll just have them call me directly to find out individually without getting into any personal issues here.
Right.
Yeah, and
Well,
also keep in mind really quick that on the website itself, which you can go to behind Wes's head, basically andsoninsurance.com, the other way, Wes. You can actually go there and they can click a button and start the process and find out if they're qualified really quick. So that I'm not sure about that process altogether. But
well, what we do is we end up here. There it is. There, I think. Okay. So what we end up doing on the website, there's a spot there. You can, when you first in the landing page, you can click Learn More. That's going to take you to the web page that allows you to watch a short video. It shows how all these things work together. It explains a lot of the most of the questions that most people have, and how it
it's
works.
about an 8-minute video, I think, or
Yeah,
something
about
like
8
that.
minutes.
But it's great to watch. It's easy to watch. You'll gather a lot of quick information.
And that will also stem questions that you will have as well, because once you've seen it, you're going to understand, hey, I see how this works, but what about in this circumstance? So that always works well as too. Now there is on the website, just to let you know, as Rodney set up, you can find out if you qualify. There's a get a quote. Now that comes over to the office, gets sent directly to Michael. And with that being said, he can actually, there's basic information there, name, zip code, those type of things, what you're looking for. So we can get an idea and give you a quote. These are no obligation quotes. Nobody's going to beat you up over them. Mike's only going to contact you once, maybe. And if he doesn't hear from you, maybe again in a month, but that's up to you. These are things that it's for you to make a decision on. Our job here is to provide you the best information possible to make the best decision.
And honestly, folks, that is why I brought these two gentlemen on. Mike's story, you probably hear that at some point, but Mike, these are two good guys. And here's the other thing. I went down that road of insurance. I didn't get quite into it like these guys did. I was doing something else, but these are some very credible people. These is a very credible company. The company, which I can never remember out of Philadelphia, the exact name. It's been around since 1933, hasn't it, Mike?
Yeah, Philadelphia American Life Insurance Company. And
it also, they partnered with,
can you type that out
do
so in
Life
case
as
people
well.
want to look that up, because that was reassurance for me. Hey, I'm working with a company that is extremely credible, been around since 1933. Not Wes's company. Wes is the agency working with the insurance provider, but we're talking about the insurance provider.
Right. And they also partnered with, they've merged together with New Era Life is the word you were looking for, I believe, right?
Okay.
So they've been around, they back each other up. This is real insurance. It's not as we've run into, Mike and I have run into a lot of these, the sharing programs. These are not sharing programs. We actually we're regulated by the states. You're actually a licensed insurance as opposed to a non-insurance product that is subject to whatever someone on a panel decides whether they want to pay or not. So now other people say, well, what about if I go into a hospital? We have set amounts on that as well. Generally speaking, a middle of the road plan, you're going to have I think it's, if you go in for an injury, no, excuse me, if you go in for an illness, it pays like $3,000 a day. Now, just like with the office visit, it's going to pay no matter what. So if your bill ends up being more or less than what the benefit is, they are going to pay you the excess. We also cover like if you go in for an injury, it's going to be a higher premium. They break everything down just like your itemized bill is. We break everything apart. They pay so much per day for the room, the procedural doctor, whatever the surgery was, anesthesiologist, so on. If they have to do x-rays, that's all broken down separately too. So all these things add together. It isn't just one cost that goes in for that.
And I want to add something, a caveat to that is that they have a liaison at the insurance company. So when you do receive your bill from wherever you end up being, especially if it's something of significance, and then you got to sit and try to, look at the scary details, this person goes to work for you. Can you guys go into just a smidge about that?
Yeah.
Yes. What it would end up being, it's Keras 360. You can look that up on the internet. It's a advocate company. If your bill is more than $2,500, then you get them involved. You can do this prior, because what they can do, like if you had a set procedure that has to be done, you can call them up ahead of time and say, this is what I've got to get. They can look up for facilities in your area that do exactly what you need to be done and give you a list of them at different prices so that you can make a choice between John down the street or Jerry across the street. Of what the cost.
Oh, you didn't mention that last time, and I really enjoyed that little piece because and I don't know about any of you all, but I've never had that where you can call and say, hey, who's the best in town based on price, whether it's based on 5-star rating, whatever, but at least you got somebody going to bat for you beforehand and then give you maybe some insight on what you're going to be looking at afterwards, and giving you a backup plan to go back to them if need be, to have them contact the insurer or contact the wherever you're being billed from. Is that correct, Wes or Mike?
That's correct. That is correct. Your agent can do that for you. Once you get in, they have just added a new feature. I just want to let you know, they have just added a new feature to your own web portal. When you log in, you can actually click on fair pricing. You can click on there. It will take you over to healthcarebluebook.com. And that allows you to look up and find doctors that are in your area and what kind of pricing they have been charging in the recent past. Because there is a lot of data out there. People gather this information all the time.
Now, quick question. Is this, now I know Western medicine, but we also, again, we'll get into this question about the CPT codes and things like that. So people make sure they understand about that. So how is that working as far as, we understand pretty much everything on the Western medicine side, the specialists and so forth, but we're also got this other side. Can you get into those pieces as well?
Sure, not a problem. What we'll do, what we ending is, we will pay for a licensed physician that basically has a CPT code. And basically that's a code that it's in the Journal of Medicine that indicates what the procedure is. So, you can't create something in your head and say that I'm going to do this procedure and get paid for it. But what we can do is, what you can do by the overall savings. And Rodney and I were going over this. Was it last week, Rodney?
Yeah.
Okay, we went over this last week. We were explaining this to the practitioners that you can actually, let's say, for example, a person is paying $1,000 a month for their insurance. And that's not uncommon if you're buying it for yourself out there on the marketplace. So let's say you're spending $1,000 a month, and that insurance with Blue Cross Blue Shield, or it's just Big Blue, and they don't cover any of this other alternative medicine. So we get people that sign up with this, with our plan, that the premium now is only $500 a month. With that being said, that's $500 a month savings in their pocket. What we call an invisible bucket of money. So in general, they were already budgeted for $1,000 a month if they already had that. So what they're end up doing is now they have $500 a month that they could utilize on alternative medicine that may not have a CPT code or what we consider a licensed practitioner. So
basically what you're saying is that with the savings of the premium alone, we haven't even gotten into the deductible and the co-pays and so
Correct.
forth, but yeah, I mean, that makes sense. So if you're took my 1,000 down to 500, you've cut that in half or any sort of significance, then yeah, let's say Dr. Hendricks here, he's in our group. He's actually on the call. Thank you. He probably has certain CPT codes or not that he is able to bill to the insurance. Okay. But if he's able to go to somebody like our community members who are on this call or any of his clients, he can say, hey, this is a great way to save money. So now, which is one of the things that I was so adamant about having you on, is because right now the premium's so high, the deductible's so high that nobody wants to use their insurance, which means that you're making a decision on your health based on finances. And honestly, in my opinion, that's not good at all. Okay. And so if we can drop you down and you can have all that extra money, now you don't have to sit and think about it. Not only that, but you may have some extra money to do who knows what with those dollars that you choose.
Right. So, and then on top of that, let's get into what you were saying, deductibles and co-payments. We don't have a co-payment. The only time there's a so-called co-payment is, like I explained, if it's $140 and your benefit's only $120, then your out of pocket is only $20. But any out of outpatient procedure, office visits, outpatient surgeries, labs, any of those type of things, there is no deductible to meet before your benefits start. The only time a deductible comes into play is if you're literally admitted into a medical facility, into a hospital. That's the only time a deductible is in play. So from day one, say you just put it into effect as of November 1st. November 1st going forward, if you need to go to a doctor, and like I was just using the middle of the road plan, it's $120 for a doctor's visit. You can go to a doctor's visit, you know that they're going to pay $120. So you can go to an urgent care, knowing that they're going to pay $300 for that visit. Now, I do know, I just had a client have one come through. I haven't been to an urgent care in a while, but I try to keep track of all my different stuff. The original bill for an urgent care here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area was a $512. They gave them their insurance card, just like you would Blue Cross Blue Shield. They run it through the negotiator, the network. The price was reduced down to $225. Now, the facility was paid $225. My client received a check for $75 because the urgent care benefit was $300. So they end up paying you $75 to you because the benefit gets paid, whether it goes to the medical facility or if it goes to you or how it happens. Now, you also do have the option, we're very versatile, to where it allows you to go out, go to a doctor, ask for the cash price if you prefer. Like if you said that there's practitioners on the call. If there's practitioners here that don't take insurance, but yet they're still, the procedures that they have would still be considered like chiropractic. They would still be considered a doctor's, a licensed professional performing a medical procedure. We go and take a chiropractor that doesn't take insurance. We can take very versatile where we can take the cash price. Let's say, like I was saying, you pay $65 for a visit. They're going to be submitted in. You come home, you email it in. It's very simple, very easy. You take a picture of your receipt. You fill out a short form, you send it in. 2 weeks late, 2 to 3 weeks later, you're receiving a check in the mail for the full benefit. So if you paid $65 on your credit card and your chiropractor's visit is going to be covered at 120, you're going to receive a $120 check. I could show you, actually, I got one yesterday here. I have the plan myself. You can see, let me go the wrong way. You can see the cost factors here that on there, we went to the doctors. It cost me $95 for the visit, $114 for the lab. Okay. So the overall cost that I paid was $119. Going over here, you can see, I'll pull it up here so you can see the check. They sent me a check for $200 because the lab was $80 and the office visit was $120. So even though they only charged 100 and where does it go? I'm trying to show you at the same time I'm reading.
19.
14. Yeah.
100, let's see, it's 119. I still got the $200 check because that's the benefit that I'm paying for. Many people say, well, this sounds like insurance fraud. No, it's not insurance fraud. The insurance company actually wants you to use these benefits. Why? Because that's what you're paying for. But now let's flip on the opposite side. We do have a limit on how much it's going to pay. So out of pocket for these type of procedures, like your basic labs, going to a doctor's visit, so on and so forth, you only have, you end up getting 20 visits to a doctor's office a year. Well, some people say, well, that's not very many. Well, if you factor that out, that's almost twice a month. How many people are going to a doctor's office twice a month? And then, so that really isn't so bad. And they're going to pay that at $120 a visit. Now, if it's a specialist, they pay it at $160 a visit or $150 a visit. Excuse me. Now, what also adds into there is, let me ask anybody here, and it's rhetorically speaking, if you have children, when do you need a doctor the most? Right after Friday, 5 o'clock through Sunday night. Sometime on the weekend or in the middle of the night, you need a doctor because that's when your kids are sick. What do? The only option you have is urgent care, right? Well, with our plan, we've had this for many years. We provide a telemedicine. You have a doctor on call 24 hours a day. So if your children or even yourself, you have a minor incident or you don't know what to do because of the circumstance, there's no cost to have, no cost to use. You can call a telemedicine. As you get a doctor on call, you can do a video on your phone, or you can do it as a voice call, and they're going to be able to give you advice of what you should do. Or for minor things, let's say you've got a sinus infection, you can't breathe, you're up coughing. They can write you prescriptions. You can go over to the pharmacy and pick them up. There's no cost for that medical facility or the doctor's procedure. It's all built in to the cost of your monthly premium.
Hey, Wes, we got a question
Mike.
here. Sheldon has a question here. He's a holistic practitioner. Most of his clients choose to mostly prescription forego drug-based medicines. Does your programs cover holistic formulations and nutrients? What about non-standard technology treatments?
I would say, based on the way that the generalization of the medicine or the policy is set up, if it's being issued through a pharmacy, that is something that we have a benefit for. So if you are a pharmacy and you are providing a pharmaceutical and it's listed, we end up covering that. Now, that being said, as I started out with saying, we don't have a standard prescription plan. We have set benefits that we pay per day for a prescription. So on the middle of the plan that I have, I get for a generic medication, I get $20 a day. And for a brand name, I get $40 a day. We help you utilize and show you how to maximize your benefits through using discount card. Now, I will tell you, I used to think up until 3 years ago that the discount card thing, that was just a gimmick, that how do I get it for free and get a discount and blah, blah, blah. But I'll tell you, I had a medicine. I got it a year and a half ago. They called it in for me. They hadn't added anything to it. I went in to get it. 30-day supply was $322. And I was like, wow, I can't afford it. I'm getting $20. So I asked him, I said, now, did you apply any card or anything to that? What I might be able to discount it? They said, no, that's just our regular price. I said, so I pulled out, I pulled out Good RX. Everyone's familiar with that. You see it on TV. I handed it to them. They ran it through there. The $322, they brought it down to $12.87. I was like, I could not believe it at that time. And I have the proof here to show you.
Oh, it happened to me too. Believe me, they gave me one when I went into a Walgreens one time about 4 years or so ago.
Now, I submitted that. I took that home, the receipt. I took a picture of it, submitted it in. It was a generic medication. I sent it in. They sent me a check for $20. So I paid under $13. They sent me a check for $20. Now, really, that's not a lot. That's a $7 net in my pocket. But it was still the fact that I didn't have anything out of pocket. And not only that, when I did go to the doctor to get the medicine, the office visit was only $90 and they paid me $120. So between the doctor's visit and getting the medicine, for me to go to the doctor's, I ended up making, was it $37? They paid me $37 to go to the doctor's and get my medicine. So, I mean, there are benefits.
And you even admitted what last year you made more in the money coming back from the insurance company than you paid out in premiums, right?
Yeah, so far this year, excuse me. So far this year, I have, between the amount that I've paid to a doctor and the amount that I've paid in premiums, added up and then subtracted the amount of benefit I have gotten in return, I have netted just over $1,400 more than I've paid in. So now I ended up having it. That was between my wife and I. Now that wasn't because I wrote a standard. My wife ended up falling and injuring her arm. They ended up actually she ended up spraining her wrist and elbow. So they ended up, that fell onto the accidental. So we were getting double paid on there. I can't say that happens every year, but I will tell you this year so far, and the year isn't done, we've netted $1,400 this year.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
So I think what Shelton's asking for is that he's a master herbalist and naturopath. He works with non-pharmaceutical, I guess you'd say what traditionally people would think of. These are more supplements.
Okay. So that being said, what that would end up falling into, that would end up falling into that invisible bucket of money. So we're saving them in the scenario that I gave you. I'd be saving them about $500 a month.
Okay.
They can use part of that $500 to buy the products that he's got. And then
really the simplicity of it is this way, Shelton, is that if you have if you know the CPT codes that you can bill for, whether you carry insurances or not, then, like I said, that's how you know if you're going to be able to utilize this or your clients will be able to utilize in this fashion. Does that sound right, Mike?
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that like Wes was saying, the invisible bucket of money, what you're saving. And then, if you get a CPT code if you're a professional physician practitioner, you'll have a code as well, or a number. What was that, the NPI number?
Yes, correct.
So if you have that and you can submit those, absolutely.
And these are things for you also as a community. You should want to know these insights about how insurance works. So if you guys have any questions, like for example, why is it, and it kind of alluded to this before, but why is it that if you go into the hospital, why are they everybody, or wherever you go in these medicals, they're asking for major medical insurance? What's your insurance plan, right? Well, if you tell them you don't have insurance, you don't pay the Gucci price, as I call it. You pay what Medicare is going to pay. Okay, so that's the first instant thing that you should know right out the gate in using this type of insurance. And you can have this with your other insurance if you want to, depending on your circumstance. That's something you can have a discussion with Mike and Wes about. But please understand that. And then if you're just saving 500 versus 1,000, That's $6,000 a year. That's not counting the deductibles. If you're an individual, what's the average? 7,000,
It's anywhere between
7,500?
$8,500 and $12,000.
And then the families run as high as,
15 to 20. Yes.
and the premium's probably higher. So,
Much higher.
and so if
I've
you're
got
able to
an
save
example here.
10, 20, $30,000 in a course of a year, sorry, my phone, that is significant. I mean, it's just like if I came to you and just said, hey, I could save you $20,000. You're like, how do I do it? Switch insurance.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's
I'm not trying
what-
to make this complicated. And please, guys,
Yeah.
understand, I don't make anything off of doing this. This is what I do to help the community. Okay. Now, Wes and Mike, they pay a marketing fee to, just like any of the practitioners and vendors in the group. But guys, I don't get anything out of this. This is coming from my heart. This is what you guys asked for. So this is why I bring these guys in front of you, well, with many other things we do within holistic health practitioners. But please understand that if you can utilize this to your benefit, and believe me, Dr. Shelton Hendricks, he's on the call for more reasons than one. And believe me, he's a great sniff tester. Okay. He can sniff out a rat and he could tell you within minutes, if not hours or days, if something's bad. And I've done my own due diligence on this. And so there's nothing to be scared of here. It's really just accepting what these guys are really telling you to be true, because they can't be in business. They have written hundreds of policies on this. Okay. I mean, they've told me companies are coming to them and switching all of their employees over to this, because think about that. If you're employing somebody and you just now save them all this money, you're the best employer in the world. And so it's the same premise here. I'm offering this so you guys can save money somehow, some way, whether it's savings memberships with us or utilizing these services, so you guys can now spend your money the way you want to spend it, and the check comes to you. You're in complete control now, okay? Or more in control, to be able to now to take back your health the way that you want it. So you can go to Shelton, who may offer you, say, hey, I got $200 or $300 in supplements or whatever he would say to help detox or cleanse you or whatever it may be, or a protocol. Well, you don't want to stop yourself or your child from getting that type of help. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I have these guys out. I'll stop there. I'll get off my high horse. Thanks for listening.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, Rodney. And this is for people that want to advocate and take control of their healthcare costs, and not let the insurance companies of major medical tell them, just like, if you need a surgery and your doctor says, well, go over here to the hospital, it's going to cost $33,000. Well, for an example, we had a gentleman that said just that and went to CARES 360 and found a surgery center 5 miles down the road that would do the same procedure for $6,000. And instead of having a bill for 33, he only had for 6,000. He only had $100 out of his pocket.
Yeah, you remember the old song? I can't think of who's singing. I think it was Smokey Robinson. You better shop around.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You better shop around, folks, because
for an example,
unless you're not awake in what's going on in the medical industry in the world, and we're not talking about COVID and all that stuff, but it's a crazy time. And if you think that there's some truth or some things that they've been hiding from you, this is one of those things. This is why people are like, this has got to be a scam. This has got to be this, because guys, they don't want you to know about this stuff. And the other caveat to this, and I'll let Wes answer this more, is that why do you think the hospitals and all the doctors and the specialists, I'm not talking about Shelton and our people, but even the MDs, they got to pay for their practice. They got to pay for overhead, hospitals, all these devices. That's why they want you to pay the Gucci price. But you guys have wised up and went the holistic route and understand that, hey, you can go a lot better route. And the great thing about this, if you spend more money going holistic, unless you've got an acute situation that needs to happen, and I'm not a practitioner, but I just learned enough. If you keep going to these holistic practitioners, whoever you end up going to, I guarantee you, at least I know this, your body will heal itself much faster than going strictly on Western medicine. And now I'm not saying if you cut your finger off, you're going to sprinkle some herbal fairy dust. Again, let's but please keep things in context here. And so we can really allow this to be a great benefit for you. So
Now, there's one other thing I want to add to this.
go ahead.
We do have a special product that actually does for people that don't want to give up, say, Blue Cross Blue Shield. They feel that they're secure with that. They don't want to give up that unlimited amount, so on and so forth. We do have a special product, but they still have an $8,000 deductible.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a special product that we can partner with that. And it doesn't have all the extras that we have, but it allows you to help, it helps eliminate that deductible by filling in those gaps up until you meet your deductible.
Well, and even then, I mean, I think the liaison in between, working with Mike, guys, any questions that you have, these are the people to go to prepare you before, during, and after. I mean, I've never knew that was available. I'm sorry, but anytime I ever try to get a hold of my health insurance, believe me, they weren't happy, to field a phone call, or I'm waiting around, or they're not giving near as many transparencies and insights and ways that can help you.
Maximize your benefit.
Mike, tell them that testimonial. The guy spent like 40-some thousand, or started off with a $40,000 bill and then contacted the liaison. Because I love that. And you probably got hundreds of them, is my guess.
Yeah, several of them. And some of them Wes is familiar with too. He's seen them as well. But I think the one of them was, it was like $40,000. They called CARES 360, and they went to bat and pretty much came back. That was like, I think it was down to $7,000 that they came up with, that he was being overcharged or whatever. But CARES 360 went to bat for him and said, okay, well, now you don't have a $40,000 bill, you've got $7,000. So, and that's because, you go to these, case in point, I just had one of my clients was on vacation, went to Florida, and had to go to the ER and get an MRI. And she goes, oh my, geez, last time I went to the ER, it was $15,000. Oh my God. I said, don't worry about it. Just get taken care of. Well,
let's interject there, Mike. She called you and said, what do I do?
Yeah. She called me and I said, just go get taken care of. If it was nothing life threatening, I told her, I said, hey, if you're going to the ER, tell them you don't have insurance, because what they're going to ask is if you have major medical. So I said, tell them, unless you think you're going to be admitted, tell them you don't have insurance. So I gave them the cash price. She only had $399 out of her pocket when her final bill came.
And that's not a lie, folks, because what they're asking you is, do you have major medical insurance? Or when they ask you if you have insurance, that's what they're asking you. And if you want to feel more confident in saying, no, you don't have, then have them say, or repeat back to them, are you asking me if I have major medical insurance? Exactly. And if they nod their head or say yes, then you say no. And you're not living in sin.
Exactly.
But no, that's amazing. And that these things are available. Does anybody else have any specific questions that are daunting? Questions about comparison? Should I, get this type of plan? What other types of things? I have a more specialty type of situation. There are many different types of insurances that both Wes and Michael cover under this umbrella. Okay. And really quick, talk about the transportation end of it. Like flight helicopters, the ambulances, all those types of things.
Yeah, I also our company
not
also
that happens very often, but when you do, believe me, major medical doesn't cover a whole lot of this.
Right. So basically, with our plan, there's a very limited, and just like most companies or most insurance plans have a very limited amount of their insurance coverage for a medical transportation, whether it's for a ground ambulance or a helicopter, or if you're away from home, getting you flown back. I will tell you just up front, any insurance that you have does not cover you for any of that kind of service out of the country. The only thing that you're covered for with your major medical is maybe, depending on your plan, maybe basic services at an emergency room to like stop the bleeding, that kind of thing. Other than that, the cost factors is going to fall onto you. Second of all, they are going to have a limited benefit at how much they're going to pay on a medical transportation. And one of the things is that they only cover, just like, you know, if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield now, they're in, and as well as ours, they only cover to get you to the nearest facility that can treat your condition. So if it's the local hospital and you're in, let's say, for example, let's pick an area that none of you guys are in. None of you guys are in Washington State, right? I'm
Yeah, I
assuming
think
not.
everybody on the call is either from Ohio or would be listening to this, or probably Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky.
Okay. So let's say, for example, you were in Washington State and you end up needing a medical transport. They're only going to get you to the local hospital to treat you, not necessarily to the next hospital that may be what's required, or even getting you transported back home. The Global Medevac.
So you're saying if I was out in Dallas, Fort Worth, or some other state, let's say I travel around in an RV during a portion time of the
Correct.
year, and I'm down there, and next thing you know, something hits the fan, and I gotta go to the hospital, or I need medical attention. Sorry, it's getting
That's all right. I love the question that you just had, and you brought in RVers, and it just happens to be a great option. For example, let's say you were traveling to Dallas, Fort Worth. You were in an RV or even your own vehicle, and you end up having say a heart attack. They would not only transport you to the local medical facility, but if you had to, they also would get you transported back home by air. They'd also get your vehicle transported back to your home as well. They come by with a tractor trailer, pick it up, transport, drop it off at your house. No problems with that. This is all done. And for a full family, you're looking at about $39 a month for it to have that coverage. And that covers worldwide.
Now, is that for people who are already kind of like elderly people? Because
No,
I know
that's for
when we
anybody.
were talking about this is for people 65 or under 65. Is this something separate to that, to where there's not really a age or any
No
sort
age
of,
other than you have to be at least 18. If you're under 18, you have to go onto your parent.
to somebody who's more a high risk, traveling a lot, out and about, needs this type of service? You wreck your car, you travel out of state, you travel out of the country. These are things that you would probably want to have in place so you don't have to think about it, or your spouse doesn't have to think about
That
it.
is correct. I don't have it. I don't have my wallet. I have my card myself. I've had it for 10 years. That being said, yes, this is for everybody. It does cover strictly medical transportation. So, for example, most people don't realize that that helicopter that you might see in the air, that's a minimum of $35,000 to $40,000 and going up. 20 years or almost, or I guess 15 years ago, my mother-in-law, she fell off a ladder. She ended up fracturing her back. She's considered legally paraplegic today. They end up care flighting her. That's what the company is here. They took her to the hospital down in Dallas. The bill back then was $13,000 for the flight. It was like a 30-mile flight direct across. It was $13,000. Today, that same flight is about $42,000 because there's no regulation with the government of how much they will charge. So many people end up using those, and then they file bankruptcy. The cost factors keep going up and up. So when you have something like this that will cover that bill and take care of that, so that any out-of-pocket expense you're going to have will be covered. You don't ever have to worry about that. Whether you're in this country, you're in another country, to get you transported back to this country for treatment, because most people don't buy health insurance when they leave the country. I don't. When I travel, we go down to the islands, go diving. I don't take out health insurance because I don't, ignorant as I am, I think, well, that'll never happen to me. But if it does something happen to me,
Sure.
once I'm stabilized there, I can get flown back here so my insurance can cover me in the country where my insurance has coverage.
Well, let me go over one other thing that popped in my head. So you cover chiropractic, you cover acupuncture. You may not cover all the chiropractor visits, but you're going to most likely, is my guess, my guess, that you're probably going to get some change back for the checks that they'll be cutting for those those 6 that they're covering, as well as the leftovers that you can use for extra there, or possibly, again, some of those additional dollars that you're getting back to use for additional services, whether it's with Dr. Hendricks or any of our other practitioners or the vendors in our group. They've got incredible products. So are there any other questions, or Mike or Wes, are there any tips or things that you want to talk about specifically before we go? Because we can always get into another discussion of this at another time if we need to, or people can always contact you.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Robbie,
Mike.
I wanted to add one other thing is I am also licensed not only in Ohio, but I'm also licensed in West Virginia, Kentucky, Indiana as well. That's around Ohio, as well as Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, as well as Texas. So if you've got friends, family in other states, doctors, pretty much anybody that's
Are
struggling.
the policies the same, Mike?
Yes. Now the offerings, like for example, in Texas, we can also do dental and vision on the same. It all depends on the attorney general in each state. In Ohio, for whatever reason, the attorney general would not allow Philadelphia American to offer a dental and a vision plan.
At least
But I
at this
also have
time.
dental vision through another carrier. But we don't, Ohio Attorney General is one of the strictest in the country. And that's why it's so easy to get a non-resident license in other states. Once they see that you got a license in Ohio, they say, oh, geez, well, that's good enough. You just pay a fee. And usually it's minimal to get a non-resident
Sure.
license in another state. That you got other carriers that will offer dental and vision if needed.
Yeah, and so we offer that Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, so that people can get some of those additional pieces. And that's the other part I want to make sure we point out is that health insurance covers quite a lot of different types of little insurances. And so if there are any additional, go to the website, lean to your right there, Wes. www.ansoninsurance.com. And that way you can see also all the different, who they're partnering with business wise, okay, with all these companies, because they're not running these companies. These are all independent companies that are doing different types of services. And find out by speaking with Mike, here's my situation. It's kind of like meeting with a practitioner, right? You don't want to go into the MD where he spends 10 minutes with you if you're lucky, versus the practitioner like Dr. Hendricks, who's going to spend probably on minimum a couple hours right out the gate with you. And then that way, then they can kind of say, okay, based on this information, this is the best match for you, right? It's the same thing almost similar to what Shelton does, but not that he's diagnosing. Shelton's just trying to get to the root cause, let's say.
And that's why we can individualize each plan for everybody, because there's no one set, plan for everybody. So we just figure out, okay, what is it that's more important to you? We can do this, this, and this. We can, recommend other things, pick and choose what you want. And that way you can keep your costs lower.
And you know what? And maybe if you're able to cut this premium back, if you end up getting the insurance or able to, maybe that helps you to pick up a life insurance policy, or some of these other types of things that you've been wanting to get for a while, or getting that new car, whatever you want to do. At least now you have a lot more options, in my opinion, as far as at least the number of dollars that you'll be saving.
Yeah, and I've got multiple carriers for life insurance right now, and the big, I guess the most popular plan right now is a life insurance policy. It's a term life that you can get your cash back. You have a cash back offer after the 20, 30 years, whatever you want. And a lot of people aren't offering that at your local.
And maybe
financial-
that's another conversation for another time. We can get into that piece, but as right now, does anybody have any questions? If so, feel free. Wes, Mike, do you have anything else that you would like to discuss?
No, I'd love to open it up for anybody to interject and give questions. If they have, I see that there was one question wanting to get specific for a family. I did send back and indicate to them to the best way for us to handle that would be for you to go to the website and just fill out the short form. It's nothing majorly invasive into your background. It basically just gives us some basics that we can then reach back out to you. And like I said, we're not here to pressurize you in anything. We're just trying to help you save as much money as possible, because really, why spend more money than you have to?
Yeah, it's as simple as like, well, if there's another Shelton Hendricks down on the corner, okay, and I can get it for half as much for just the greatest quality, which is impossible. I wouldn't do that to Shelton, because you can't do it that way. But if you could, yes, if you could easily save money. And let me ask you this, how complicated is this? Is this a pretty easy process? I mean, do you got to draw blood from me? Do I got to stand on my head? What does this look like as far as the process? I know we talked about going to the website and starting it, but how does the overall process look like time-wise?
Actually, the process is really simple. No, you don't have to have blood drawn from you. We do ask, there are some basic questions that we ask. Like I said, we have a pretty liberal policy. We do ask for certain questions. One of the things, there's a delay on your insurance if there's someone pregnant in your family. But there's kind of things, just because of the way that the medical and legalities of it are. If there's somebody already pregnant in your household, then we ask that we wait until they've already had the child before we are able to insure
Sure.
you. But other than that, pretty much it's based on your health, your situation, your age, and your location. Remember, in general, for any type of insurances that you generally get, there's two things that get you insurance. It's not money. It's well, that helps too, but it's your age and your health is the two things that determine whether you get insurance or not. Because no matter how much money you have, if you don't have those two things, you can't get the insurance. So
Now, let me
in our
ask-
case, by running it through the underwriting, we're actually giving you incentive for being healthy. I think most people today, especially ones on this call, they're actually making the effort to stay healthy. Rodney says that he exercises, he eats the right foods. Why should he be paying the same price as someone that is sitting around eating cake and McDonald's every day? I mean, he should be rewarded for him keeping himself in good shape. So, and that's one of the things that we do.
Gotcha. What about people who start off, let's say they start off in this plan, they're 60 years of age, they've had the plan, and all of a sudden they hit 66 years of age. Did they lose the insurance? Do they have to pick up a different type of insurance? What about people? Do you have anything that's like this possibly for people who are 65 or older?
Now, there is parts of this that can bleed over. The primary part of the health is it gets basically when you turn 65, that automatically qualifies you for Medicare. You're going to start getting billed for Medicare anyways. So you would transition over to that. We do have options to offer for supplements that would fill in the gap. There are other options that are available to help you once you do turn 65. There are parts of this, the specified disease, the dental, those all carry past 65 if you want to keep them.
Okay, awesome.
Now, one other thing, that this is one thing that most carriers cannot say, is with Philadelphia and their track record and their history. One of the questions that I asked a lot is, how much is my premium going to be next year? Because if you start out this year, what is it going to be next year? Most people
Good
say,
question.
oh, well, you started me out real cheap, but what is it going to be next year? Are you going to really jack me up? No,
You're gonna really stick it to me.
right,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
What in
They're thinking of their cable company.
yes. Well, you start out for 12 months, right? No, with ours, it's generally speaking, it's about 3 to 4% increase depending. Now, I will say this fall, we did the first time in 9 years, Philadelphia actually had a cross the board increase. It was the first time in 9 years that was in addition to the standard age increase. So like Mike could, or I, but let's say Mike, he could actually tell you, let's say, for example, you're 52 and he gives you a price. He can actually look and say, okay, when you turn 55, as long as we haven't had an across the board price, this is what you're going to be paying at 55.
Yep.
Because the prices are already set. It's as you age, the actuaries show price cost factor. So we already know what it's going to be. It's about 3% a year. So if you're paying $200, 3% of that is $6. I think generally speaking, that's the cost of a Starbucks coffee, right?
Yep.
So that a month. So you're looking at cutting back on one Starbucks coffee and being able to absorb the $6 that you're going to have on your premium.
Well, and hopefully you'll get a raise too if you're working for a company.
That's exactly
or something like
correct.
that to maybe help cover, or you just cut back. Just cut
And
back
another
for your
one,
health.
you talked about having companies switch. Now, I have a company right now that they were paying 50% of their employees up to a certain amount of money. I think it was $500. Up to $500, they would pay 50% of the employee's benefit up to a $500 payment from the company. So some of these people were at $1,600. So really, they were paying $1,000 out of pocket. After I came in and got them, they literally, because of the cost factors involved and what the insurance that they covered, they literally decided to just pay, because they were going to pay up to the $500 anyways. They basically they took this on and paid for the employees themselves without having an employee contribution, because it still factored within that $500 range for each one of the employees. So they took that on. Now you're a hero, because now you're not having an employee that has to pay anything out of pocket. And you are providing all of the benefits to them. So that was one of the things. I'm not saying you have to do that. The cost factors involved are totally up to you as to the employer. But an employer does have to be able to contribute 50% of the premium to be able to use it as a tax deduction on the business cost factor.
Yeah, I was
So
saying
that's not
that's a great tax deduction. I know we have a few of our practitioners that have employees.
And the thing about it is, here in Ohio, stating you don't have to do that. You're not required to unless you have 20 employees. And I've got several businesses that I've done that have 10 to 15 employees that choose to, but I'll still go in and write everybody individually if they don't choose to, and still save everybody money. And if they do choose to contribute less than 20, then we can do everybody that way as well. But I just did a doctor's office, several doctor's offices, one of them in particular, that the doctor came back to me and said, Mike, you just saved me 50% across the board. And even with like heating, cooling companies and plumbing companies and landscapers, and they told me that I've saved their business, because most people were going to leave if I didn't offer, if he wasn't able to offer health insurance. And it was just to the point where the guy said, it was so inexpensive or so affordable for him, the employer ended up paying for it just to keep his employees.
And there's one thing I'd like to add last is, I know that we've went over our time, but one thing I want to add last is this is transportable. So if let's say, for example, if you're an employee working someplace, they don't offer benefits, and you take this out, you end up either that company, you no longer are working for them for some reason, and you go to another company. You don't have a break in your policies. You have the same amounts moving over to the next, your same benefits moving over to the next place.
Right.
So, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, let me ask
That is
this,
correct,
let me
Susan.
ask this
Transferable.
question here. What about people who are working for an employer? They're like you said, their employer's covering some of this stuff, but in my mind, it's like, well, that's great that they're covering it, but they can add this too. I know that we talked about, but is there something that maybe I don't know, maybe it's not as expensive because maybe they're thinking like, okay, that's great. Some employers are paying the whole thing, some are paying half, some are, whatever it is, but it's a reduced amount. And I can see where that is helpful. But again, what is the cost of your premium per month? And what are your deductibles per month? And if it's not worth it, then don't stay in it. Now, like my brother, I talked to him about this and he says, listen, he says, we got the A+ golden policy up where he's at up in Michigan somehow through, I don't know, some school agency or whatever. But that's pretty rare. And so I would suggest that at least have a conversation because, and Mike, I'm still waiting on my quote, buddy.
Mike,
I didn't get your information.
You didn't? All right.
did you go to the website?
No, I didn't. He just
Go to
asked
the
me a series
website,
of
fill it out.
questions and I probably figured I had to go.
Yeah, I didn't see, I apologize. I didn't see your email.
Yeah.
Well, Rodney,
My
if you go to
bad.
if you go to the website and get it over here, I'll make sure he gets it to you today. How about that? He will
My
have
fault.
it to you today before 5 o'clock.
Yeah, definitely. My goodness. Yeah, I apologize because I mean, I've been trying to just going crazy here the last couple of days now. Open enrollment. Phone's been ringing off the hook, and I've been trying to keep with the emails and look at those. But I apologize, and I'll look back and pull it up and find out what.
Probably my error or something, but anyhow, I'll get because I need to get mine done for sure. And sorry if you guys thought I had a policy. I don't. I'm looking into it myself. That's why, this also intrigued me because I'm like, okay, because cost is a matter for probably 90+% of us.
Yeah, Rodney, go ahead and get that filled out. I'll do the quote for you, and it'll still go through Mike, but I'll do the quote for you personally.
Okay. Well, you just take care of Susan, Christine, and Teresa here because
Absolutely.
they've been on this and participating. So guys, I can't thank you enough. Ladies, are there any questions? Because it's almost like the Brady Bunch here. We need another 3 to the right. But anyhow, do you have any questions for Mike or Wes? Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Susan, Christine, and Teresa.
Yes.
Put that
Any
quote
of
in
you-
there.
Any of you guys, like I said, Mike has all of it in Ohio for me. So if you guys are in Ohio or the Midwest, it's all going to go through him. Feel free to contact, go through the website. I'll even help him get these done and get them over, especially for Rodney. But get these taken care of. And any of these questions, the main thing is getting the information. Once you get the information, then you can then make an educated decision. This might not be for everybody. I will tell you that it may not be for everybody, and not everybody is going to qualify. I'm not going to come on here and say, oh, well, I can do it all for everybody. I cannot. There are some circumstances I can't, but I would love to be able to provide you with a cost factor of what you could be saving and allowing you to make the decision of what you are paying, if you are paying any at all, to what you could be paying, and then showing you the difference in the cost. I have not yet, except for what an employee was paying their portion of a group policy. I have always come in much cheaper, much more economically affordable than anyone else.
Less expensive.
I
expensive.
I love your political.
Well, when you use the word cheap,
Better benefits, less expensive with better benefits.
that's right.
There you go.
You're not paying for a lot of things that you don't need. Mike has the brochures He can go over the individual stuff with you. If you're looking just to find out, and nobody's going to hold you to anything. Rodney knows that. That's just the way we are. And my philosophy has been for the last 16 years of selling insurance is if you can't leave a person in a better place, then you leave them alone. And I 100% I have told so many people, hey, I can't help you. I think you're in a better place right now than what I can do for you. If you really want to change, that's up to you. But I don't think this would be in your best benefit.
Awesome. Well, we're going to end this call. And before we end it, Emily, hang on, because I need to talk to you, Emily, because I know she just came on and it was my mistake.
Welcome, Emily.
But we're going to end this call. It is, like I said, recorded if you're watching this to the end, but we're going to stop this right now. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You can hang out. I'm just going to stop the recording so I can talk to Emily and we'll go from there. Okay.